officials seem to think it is only a matter of time until the coronavirus starts to spread through communities here in the United States. The Centers for Disease Control says it is preparing medical personnel on how to contain the spread of its flu-like illness. So far, 34 coronavirus cases have been confirmed in the U.S., but there have been more than 76,000 worldwide, the vast majority in China. And overnight, there was a huge surge of cases in South Korea. More than 2,200 people around the world have died. Deborah Pata is in Tokyo, where the disease is now threatening the 2020 Olympics, which are still months away.
One COVID-19 death report here in the nation, and the number of confirmed cases continue to escalate. We start things off by connecting to our Choi Jung-yun standing by on the line for us. Jung-yun, please fill us in on the latest.
Daniel, South Korea's second death was reported just a few hours ago, a 54-year-old woman who had been hospitalized in Cheongdo Daenam Hospital. She was being transferred to Busan National University Hospital as her condition had deteriorated. But at around 5:18 p.m. on Friday, the victim was given CPR and later died. This brings the total number of deaths of COVID-19 in South Korea to 2, and the Cheongdo Daenam Hospital is where the first death occurred as well. A 63-year-old man who had been hospitalized with schizophrenia for more than 20 years died of pneumonia. It was discovered afterwards that he had COVID-19 through an autopsy. Experts say the mortality rate of the virus outside Wuhan is estimated to be around 0.2 to 0.4%. That's lower than MERS but higher than influenza.
And Jung-yun, with 2 more new cases in Busan, the total number of confirmed cases has risen rapidly.
That's right, Daniel. More than 100 new cases have been confirmed today alone, bringing the country's total to at least 206. And COVID-19 has struck Busan, the southern port city, for the first time. A month after the first case in South Korea was confirmed, Busan had no confirmed cases of...
Came the last night of sadness, and it was clear that she couldn't go on.
Welcome to another MedCram lecture. So I hear this question a lot. How does the coronavirus actually kill people? There's a recent article in The Lancet that showed that of 41 people that were admitted to the hospital, 6 of them died, and all of them were on ventilators, and they died with something called ARDS. And ARDS is how the coronavirus kills. It's not just the coronavirus, but many other viruses, including the influenza virus that we have every year. How is it that this happens? It's through acute respiratory distress syndrome, and I'm going to explain to you how that happens. So you first have to understand lung anatomy, and to understand that, I like to show you a tree. So a tree has a tree stump, and then it branches, and then those branches branch, and then further those branches branch, until finally you get to the leaves. And these leaves capture the sun's rays, and that's what gives you photosynthesis, and that's how the tree lives. And so what happens is that this tree and the branches increase the surface area of the leaves on the tree, so that if you were to pluck off all of the leaves and you were to put them on the ground next to each other, the surface area that is represented by those leaves would be larger than the shadow that is produced by the sun on that tree. Well, it's the same exact thing that happens with your lungs. You've got an airway, and then that airway divides into a right mainstem bronchus and into a left mainstem bronchus, and then you have a right upper lobe, you have a right middle lobe, right lower lobe, left upper lobe, and you have a left lower lobe. So this is the left side, this is the right, because you're looking at the patient. And then these things, of course, divide into much smaller branches. And instead of leaves at the end of all of these things, what you have is something called an alveoli, which is a tiny little small grape-like structure that the air gets into. And the air, of course, has oxygen. So what does this look like on a large scale? Here's what an alveolus looks like. How many alveoli are there in the human body? Well, there's about 600 million of them. These are very, very small. So what happens is deoxygenated blood comes by, and its job is to pick up the oxygen that comes in to the alveoli. And then when that oxygen comes in, it oxygenates the blood, and then that blood goes back to the heart and then to the body and all your muscles. That's how you get oxygen. And so you can imagine that this is very, very thin because the oxygen which comes down here has to diffuse into the bloodstream. So far, so good. But what happens? Well, just like when you hit your finger in the door, your finger swells. That's because there's inflammation occurring where you hit your finger in the door. And inflammation causes a leakage of fluids into the tissue space. So what happens here is that you get a viral infection. The virus affects your lungs. And with ARDS, the entire lung becomes inflamed. Not just in one area like you would have with a pneumonia, or one particular area, for instance, on your finger, and it would just stay in one particular finger and your whole hand wouldn't swell. No, with ARDS, the entire lung goes crazy with inflammation. And so what happens here, instead of having a nice thin area, inflammation goes everywhere, and you get a large barrier of fluid that goes into the interstitial space. Furthermore, these capillaries start to become leaky, and fluid starts to leak into the alveolar space as well, and this starts to fill up with liquid, proteinaceous liquid. Furthermore, these capillaries start to become leaky, and fluid starts to leak into the alveolar space as well, and this starts to fill up with liquid, proteinaceous liquid, liquid that prevents oxygen from getting into the bloodstream. And so instead of having nice oxygenated blood, this blood becomes hypoxic, and you become hypoxic if you have ARDS, and you have a hard time breathing, and that's when you get placed on the ventilator. There's really nothing you can do to speed this up. There's nothing that you can do to slow it down. You have to be supported on the ventilator so that you're getting enough oxygen and that the machine can breathe for you until, just like everything else, after you hit your finger in the door and the swelling goes away, this fluid will eventually go away as well. The key, though, is keeping you supported during that period of time until the fluid goes away, and then, once again, the oxygen will be able to go back into the system, and you will get oxygen back to your tissues.
All our times have come. Here, but now they're gone.
New warning from the CDC about the concerns here in the U.S. Our senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell joining us live in just a minute. But first, his report.
Tonight, the global fear of COVID-19 as cases around the world continue to grow. Anger boiling over in Ukraine as evacuees from China touch down for quarantine. Protesters there clashing with police after a false rumour a handful were infected with the new coronavirus. And tonight, a somber reality check from the World Health Organization. Although the number of cases outside China is still small, time to stop the spread of the virus may be running out.
The window of opportunity is narrowing, so we need to act quickly before it closes completely.
fear the reaper, nor to the wind, the sun, or the rain. We can be like they are. Come on, baby, don't fear the reaper. Baby, take my hand. Don't fear the reaper. We'll be able to fly. Don't fear the reaper.